Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to discuss more about custom authorizer Lambda. We are also going to implement custom auth Lambda in this. So I am at the API documentation page for the Lambda authorizer, and this is the workflow which has been discussed below. So before discussing the workflow, let us look at the contents of the access token which we received upon successful authentication. So I will head over to Postman and go to the API gateway endpoint for the logging. And here I will copy access token from the authentication result. And I will go back to jwt.io to decode this token. So I'll paste the token. And you see, after the token has been decoded, you can see that there is a unique identifier in for the sub property in the payload. So what is this? What is this unique identifier? This is nothing but a unique identifier associated with the user. So whenever we create a user using user registration flow, the user gets a unique identifier. So I'll head back to the console, Amazon AWS console, and I'll click on user pools, and I will select the user pool for our API and go to the users. So you can see that one of the users, the user ID is associated with one of the users here. I'll just check that and verify it back again. I'll copy here. So you can see that it is representing this user um, with this email address. Now I'll go head back to the documentation page. So this is the workflow which we are going to implement. The client calls a method on API Gateway API. In our case, it is going to be the API Gateway endpoint for the home route, passing the bearer token in the headers. The API Gateway checks if the method request is configured with the Lambda authorizer. If it is, API Gateway calls the Lambda function, the authorizer Lambda function, which is shown here in the diagram. Now the Lambda function, it is the responsibility of the Lambda function to validate the token. And if the token is valid, the Lambda function returns an IAM policy and a principal identifier. If the Lambda function does not return that information, the call fails. So what do you mean by IAM policy and the principal identifier? So I have also saved the IAM policy which we want to discuss here. So I'll just open the IAM policy, the valid IAM policy. So the policy consists of three things: the principal ID, the policy document, and the context part. So the principal ID is nothing but the unique identifier to represent the user in cognito. And if you look at the statement under the policy document, it allows to invoke API call to the ARN of the API gateway endpoint. So we can go back to our console and check if this ARN belongs to the API gateway endpoint of the home route. So I'll just go back to AWS console and go to API gateway, and I'll click on the get request here, and you can see the ARN of that API gateway for the home page. Now I go back to the documentation page. Yeah. If the API gateway the API gateway evaluates the IAM policy. If access is denied, the API gateway returns a suitable HTTPS code such as 403 access denied or unauthorized. And if access is allowed, API gateway invokes the method, and you will receive the message from the home Lambda handler. So we are going to implement the custom auth Lambda in this video. So with this theory at our hand. Now I am at my serverless YAML file. And let us start configuring the authorizer Lambda function. So the configuration is going to be similar. I'll just copy the previous section and paste it here. I'll make the relevant changes here. The name of the Lambda function is going to be authorizer function. The handler, the path of the handler would be under SRC functions. Author, sorry, authorizer .js and name of the exported method. So we do not need API gateway trigger for the auth lambda. Also, I'll just delete this section. And in the environment, in addition to cognito user pool client ID, we need cognito user pool ID as well. So I'll add another environment variable named cognito user pool underscore ID. And it will refer cognito user pool, the resource which we created below. Oh, sorry, it is going to be cognito user pool. So I'll just copy and paste it here. And then we have to attach the lambda authorizer to the home API gateway endpoint. So I'll just yeah, in here uh, I will type authorizer, which will need name. The name of the lambda function is nothing but authorizer func. Type of the authorizer is going to be request, and identity source is going to be method dot request dot header dot authorization. That's it for the configuration of the authorizer lambda function. In addition to this, we need a library dependency to be installed. I'll go to the command prompt real quick. I will clear the screen and I will type npm install minus minus safe aws jwt verify. So this is the library we are going to use to verify the validity of the token. You can see that I already have that library installed, that dependency installed. Now we will head back to our VS Code and start implementing the authorizer function, Lambda handler. So I'm at my VS Code. In the source code repository under SRC functions, I'll create another file named authorizer.js. In this file, we will first import cognito JWT verifier from AWS JWT verifier. Then we will create an instance of verifier um, from cognito JWT verifier.create method. So this method will take in user pool ID. So we will pick up user pool ID from environment variables process.env cog cognito user pool underscore ID. Then we need client ID, which again we are going to pick up from the environment variable process.env dot cognito underscore client underscore ID. And the token use is going to be access in our case. So once the instance of verifier is created, we'll go ahead and create the our handler method. So export const handler async. It will take event and context. So first thing that we have to do is we have to retrieve the token from the headers. So const token equal to event dot headers dot authorization. If head authorization is present, key is present in under headers, then we have to split it event dot dot split by with a space and retrieve the element at index 1, else it will be a null. So if token is null, then we have to return generate policy. So this is the method this is the utility method which we need to send the invalid or the valid policy. Now I have already implemented that utility method. I'll just copy it from here from and paste it below the handler method. So in case the token is null, we are going to pass user as principal ID and the effect is going to be deny. And we get the ARN of the API gateway of the home route from event dot method ARN. So let us discuss the generate policy utility method. So this utility method is going to take principal ID, effect, resource, and context. So as discussed earlier, we are generating the auth response. The the auth response will have principal ID, policy document, and context. Now let us discuss these three components. So principal ID is the required property on our authorizer response. It represents the principal identifier for our caller. And in our case, it is nothing but the unique identifier to identify the user in cognito. And the second thing is policy document. The policy document contains the IAM policy to pass back to the API gateway. And the third thing is the context. And this is the optional key. This is used to pass additional information. In our case, we are passing the user ID of the user. And at the end, we will return the auth response. So this is about the generate policy utility method. Now, if the token is not null, we are going to decode and verify the token using verify.verify method const payload equal to await verify.verify method, and it will take the JWT token itself, and in return it will return the decoded payload for us. So sorry, I forgot to add try catch block here. Let us add that real quick. And we will move this piece of code under try catch block. And if we get a payload, a successful payload in response from the verify method, then we will return generate policy And here we pass the identifier for the user, payload.sub, and the effect is going to be allow, and resource is nothing but event.method ARN. And in context, we are going to pass user ID, payload.sub. And in case of error, we are going to return generate policy user. Effect is going to be deny, and ARN is going from event.method ARN. So now you see that we are done with our method authorizer method implementation, handler implementation as well. Now we will just try and deploy our service and test the home route. I'll head back to my command prompt, and here I'll clear the screen. I will type serverless deploy -" verbose. So it has started deploying the service. I will pause here a bit and I will come back once this has been deployed. And we can see that our service has been deployed successfully. Now I will head back to our Postman to test the home route. So I will hit the login endpoint once again and retrieve the fresh access token from uh, the authentication, successful authentication. I'll click the send button, and here I will copy the access token from the response, and I will head over to the API gateway endpoint for the home route. And in the headers section, I will not pass anything, and I will click on the send button. So you can clearly see that we got a 404 unauthorized response, which we had discussed earlier. Now let me add the authorization header, authorization, and the value will be bearer. And I will paste the token which I had copied from the response of the login API gateway endpoint. And now I will click on the send button. So you see that we have got a response message from the home Lambda handler. So we have successfully implemented Custom Auth Lambda in this video. Now, believe me, we have achieved a lot, an awful lot in this video. So this piece of information is not easily available on the internet. Yeah. In the next video, we are going to start with our task manager APIs. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.